just moving to Chicago and like figuring it out. And so when I like made that move, that was probably the best situation in my life to like not only like boundary setting, but also like getting myself out of a situation that I knew that I shouldn't be in anymore. I remember even like my homie that did pass, he was like, you know, once you move out there, and I'll never forget it, but he's like, once you move out there, we won't be as close of friends anymore. And I was like, that fucked me up. I was like, what the fuck? But it was so true in every possible way. And even his parents, they're like, don't come back. Don't come back. And I didn't.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we're back with a special guest. Not to kill his spotlight, but real quick, right before we get into it, man, we've been going through a lot. We got some new setup here. On top of that, we survived the flood. Cameras luckily survived. That shit could have been very, very, very fucking bad because I do not got money for new cameras, and we would have been back to square one. So, just so you guys know, when it rains, it's not always bad, literally.
Highs and lows.
Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
My name is Demir. I am 28 years old, and I live in Chicago, Illinois. I am a creative director, entrepreneur, and a designer, first and foremost.
He didn't even drop the names for who we be working with.
No, not yet.
I always take descriptions for people and kind of their highlights so far, right? Obviously, you said you're from Bosnia, immigrant, right? You've worked with Vic Mensa, G Herbo, Chance the Rapper. You did the Yeezy marketing. For you, you know, what does all of this mean, man? Like, to be able to reflect on that and see what you've accomplished so far.
When I reflect that, I still am in shock, to be completely honest, that like some of these dreams are coming into fruition to like where I am right now. You know, I think I'm still kind of like, whoa, is this actually happening? You know what I mean? Like, is it? And you kind of have to, like, even with, like, my homies, when they're asking me what I'm doing and what, you know, they're like, I don't think you know what you're doing. And I'm like, not in the sense, like, you don't know what you're doing, but, like, they don't know, like, there's kind of, like, saying, like, to the level that where you're at and what you're doing, I don't think you really, really understand what it is. And I think I'm still processing certain things, right? Like, it's hard, it's, like, and I'm super humble with it, like, it's just like I'm trying to, there's other like names that I want to achieve, there's other people that I want to like work with, there's other things that I still want to do, and I think until I'm kind of maybe an age, maybe it's like a time, or maybe it's like a moment that I have to kind of wait for and to like really, really sit down and like get you know, absorb all that stuff. I'm kind of just like driving right now still, you know what I mean? Like the gas station, I'm seeing all these gas stations and they have all these signs. I'm still like, let me drive, you know? And then once I like change out to be a passenger one day, then I'll kind of like feel it and see all the accolades and shit.
You got that imposter syndrome right now, right? Yeah. It's that you accomplish all these things and so many people on the outside look at it as like, damn, like that's crazy, you're doing some amazing shit. But to you, it's like, you know, I'm there, I'm gonna keep working, and there's so much more to accomplish. Like, I don't see it being done yet, and that's one of those hard things that you have to deal with a lot of the times, because you can't even really appreciate what you do. You can't appreciate it for yourself, and you still feel like you're not, you feel like you need to accomplish more in life. You feel like there's so much that you're just leaving back, right? That you haven't achieved that much.
Yeah.
That first campaign you did, or I don't know if it was the first one, but you did a huge campaign with Yeezy where you had the $1 million budget. Yeah. Talk about that experience.
I guess I'll start first and foremost, like how that experience came to me is through just like crazy mentorship. Like I know when I see someone that's super like that's as driven as I am or I want to be, I really like try to stay tight to them. One of my, you know, very important people in my life who to this day, you know, carries me like you know, in every conversation or puts me where I need to be is his name's Jason Eno, and he brought Remix Project from Toronto, which is a nonprofit organization that helps kids in inner cities, and brings them into studios, environments, into design centers where they can go and work for a few hours and build internship credits for class, for all kinds of amazing things. And it's been going on for like 13 years in Toronto, and they brought it over to Chicago, over at Lacuna Lofts. And I joined that program. And when I met him, I was like, man, I gotta know this dude. I gotta know him even more. And throughout the years of just like progressing as a designer and, you know, working and hustling and all the shit, I was chilling one day and he hit me. He was like, yo, out of the blue, like shit that you just like what is happening out of the thin air. And I was like, yo, what's good? Sends me a photo. It's him in a room with Kanye and a few other people. I was like, what the fuck? I'm with my homies. I think I was at the Bears game or some shit. And I was like, yo, what is happening? And he's like, I have a job for you. I was like, the fuck do you mean you have a job for me?
With Kanye. With the Kanye picture.
What? I was like, what do you mean you have a job for me? He's like, I need you to come to this office tomorrow, 9 a.m. I have a project for you. And I was like, all right. So I get there at 8, you know, because the most important thing is to always be early and arrive early, like, no matter what. You never know what could happen on the road. You just got to do that, you know? And so I showed up. I was there early, and I actually met him right outside, and he was like, yeah, so we're going to do this. And I was like, what? He's like, we're going to do this. We're going to take Kanye to the next level. And at that point, Kanye was also, like, trying to be a presidential candidate. You know, he was doing a lot. Like, you know, he was outside. And I was, like, infatuated. I was like, whatever the fuck we need to do, we'll do it. You know, I was like, yup. And he was like, yeah, you're going to be in a room right now with all the top creators in Chicago. This, and this person. I was like, all right, cool. And I was like, what am I doing? He's like, you're going to be the art director. I was like, this is fucking crazy, yo.
How old were you at this time?
I was 23.
So 23, and you're the art director in charge of all these top creatives.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Yeah.
So I got taken upstairs and to the 5th floor of this agency. I sat down and kind of started understanding from bits and pieces, because the project had already kind of been going on for like maybe a week, you know, but it was like really, really fresh, and they were still trying to figure out who's what and what's what, and like, you know, get a team together so that like you could serve your client, you know what I mean? So that you could like get everything ready. And yeah, I walked in and, you know, everybody was there, and they're like started throwing, you know, mock this up, this idea, we're doing this campaign, we're doing this, so a whole bunch of ideas. And from that day, basically the schedule was like, you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you leave around like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you do that every day. And that happened for a month straight, a little over a month, every day, Monday through Sunday.
So when did you find time to sleep?
I didn't sleep. I did not sleep that entire campaign, at all. I didn't see my family. I didn't see friends. I didn't see anybody. Like, I was missing in action.
That's fucking crazy.
I was gone.
So what were you guys doing in these rooms then?
You have separate like cubbies and shit. So one you have the video editors editing, you have concepting, you have designers creating logos, putting decks together, putting ideas together so that Kanye can review it and his team can review it. You had people running to go get dictionaries. You had producers making mock-ups. You had people highlighting dictionaries. I was working with a photographer, figuring out what photos will go where around the world, because outside of just the newspapers that we did from LA, New York, Chicago, London, Boston, Detroit. We did billboards all around the world. So it was like not only $1 million buy, it was like I think they spent around like $13 million or so just for billboards all around the world. And so yeah, I got to really like sit there and design, the type for design the setup for the newspaper, how it's gonna, what the layout is, billboards, the layout, mocked up ideas like, hey, you can wear this hat. On no bullshit, that red hat that he wore, that was an early idea that was in one of the decks that got taken after the project was over, and he wore that at the White House.
Damn.
So that was like, it went, like you started from scratch, and then it ended up like years later, it was like in the White House. I was like, holy shit, that was crazy. It was unbelievable. Like I remember, like I really remember calling my brother one time, and he called me, and he was like, "What's up with you?" And I was like, "I'm working for Kanye." And he was like, "What?" And I was like,
he probably thought you were crazy or
no,
some
he
shit.
was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about." He was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, we talked maybe for like 2 minutes, and I was like, "I gotta go," and yeah, that was it.
What do you feel like you did well?
I had a lot of people come up to me and be like, "Yo, how long have you been working for this agency?" And I was like, "I just started the other day." They're like, "Looks like you've been here for a minute." Like, and that was like my first real agency experience. And to like have that, like when somebody says that to you, you kind of like peck your like chest up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like it lifts you a little bit. So I was like, all right, let's go. And I was really like considered like the studio designer. Like I know how to mess around on Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, any of those like Creative Cloud things. I can pretty much know how to like maneuver in all of them. So I was able to like just finesse through all of it. And I understand the language. I think understanding the language in the agency and understanding the process, like being on time is a huge thing, right? Like, but then providing the proper assets, like, hey, this file goes to this. Like those were like things that I'm sorry. Actually, the biggest thing during this campaign, I was in school too. I was in college.
So you were wrapping up school and then also working whatever those fucking crazy hours were.
Yeah,
6
so there was
to 3
one class
a.m.
that I could not miss, and I had to go to that class. That class, particularly, when I would like leave, I would leave for a couple hours, like from the agency, and I would go back to the agency, and like then go home around like 3, and then come back around 6. But there was a particular class that I had to be in. And I think that's probably answers you too. Like I was able to like multitask really well. Like I was like on top of my shit at school. I was on top of my shit at the agency. Like I was like, if I'm gonna be busy and understand what busy means, I'm gonna take it. Let's go full-fledged. And like I think that was like the biggest thing for me, is like I knew I was like, I'm gonna handle as much stress as I can. Like I'm gonna go full. I'm gonna understand what being under stress means, like what it really means.
Damn. Fucks. And you went to UIC, right?
I graduated from USC. Yeah.
What year did you graduate?
Couldn't even tell you, but it was like 3-4 years ago.
That's when you get to the point where you're like, man, I don't give a fuck. I just wanted to finish, right?
Yeah, I mean, after freshman year, I felt the same way. Like I was like, I need to leave. Sophomore year, I need to leave. Junior year, I need to leave. I was senior. I was like, just finish this shit. Just do this shit and just walk out,
What do you wish you did better?
During that process? I think boundary setting is always like, you wish you could have done better, but I think in that time, like, I was that age, I was going through those things. It's like, you kind of have to, like, you have to do your 10,000 hours, right? So it's like, and plus, right? Like, you have to do the 10,000 hours and then plus the 10,000 hours. So it's like, because it's like, you have to understand how to boundary set, because like your personal life is your mental health, your physical health, all those things matter. But I think like sometimes we just like push that to the side and like this is what I have to worry about. So I wish like early on, not only in that campaign, but I just wish early on I would have started learning how to like boundary set a little bit more with like, no, I'm busy, I'm doing this right now, or I have to do this first and then I can do this, right? So like in that time I could have probably like separated some school time and then separated some like work time for myself, you know? But I kind of like piled everything onto one and just did it. Did it affect me? Like, do I have like severe stress over it now? No, like it's passed since then. But I think in just reflecting on it, I probably would have been like a little bit more like, because that I could have taken that and then like that skill I could have put that into Notion a little bit after. You know what I mean? Like, because like after that part of my like, I continued to stay busy. You know what I mean? I still didn't learn how to like boundary set properly, you know? I'm still learning how to boundary set properly even to this day. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm still like learning how to like say no to certain things, or like, oh, I can do that next week, not today.
That's one of those hard skills that you got to pick up anyways, eventually over time, right? But when you're fucking working with the biggest artists in the world, especially Kanye at that time, because he's making headlines, you know, he's starting the fashion, he's doing all of that, and you were just basically handpicked to hop onto this project, you know? It's like, how do you say no to something like that? And when you receive these opportunities, they come at you so fast that you're like, well, fuck, I'm just going to take it. There's no time to boundary set. So I think that's just one of those lessons you got to learn while you're young, right? Because you, like you said, you got to put in your 10,000 hours. You got to pay your dues before you're able to even say, like, this is my show I'm running. My life is, you know, it's my show, and you're not going to tell me what the fuck to do and how to run it. But that's that, right? For you, how is the experience of working with these top, you know, Chicago artists and top artists in general impacted your self-perception?
I think I've tried really, really hard throughout this whole experience of like working with these artists to like always be myself and to always like stay true. I feel like that sounds cliche, but I really, really tried hard not to like almost like become infatuated with my own self. You know what I mean? Like I've tried really hard not to like ego boost my own self, because I don't need it. I do this because like first I love being creative, you know, it's like in me, and then second I do it because like this is what I said I was gonna do. So I have no time to really like boost myself on something that's like that I think I'm gonna be able to like multiply 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times over. Like I'm gonna keep doing this. You know what I mean? Like I'm not about to like, I'm gonna continue doing this. I'm gonna keep going down the road that it's like, you know, like, and I don't need like that light right now. I really don't. You know, like I'm just putting out like, I'm just trying to put out the best work I can put out, you know, and like really get, at the end of the day, all I want is like plaques and accolades and awards, and I want to be considered one of the best, you know, like put me in that chart and I'll feel great about it. But outside of that, I don't really need much, you know. I don't really need like, I don't need anybody like knowing who I am like that, you know. It's all about like feeling important within yourself, you know, making sure that you love yourself and making sure that like that shit is like you doing it for yourself and not others.
You don't need the validation from others, and I think that's one of the most important things to hold on to, right? But it's hard. It's hard when you're always kind of getting that spotlight, and obviously when it comes to social media, that's what you're putting out there. You're putting out your achievements and everything you've done, and it's kind of like, man, I like this shit. I like this attention, right? For me especially, because this is what we do, you know. We put out videos every week, and the point is to connect with other people. It's to make sure that the people that are watching are feeling the same shit, right? And when we find that success, we start to be viewed differently by our peers, by the people who we surround ourselves with, which in turn makes us think differently of ourselves, right? I took a song from Drake, Too Much, where he says, most people in my position get complacent, want to come places with star girls, and they end up on them front pages. I'm quiet, but I just ride with it. Moment I stop having fun, I'll be done with it. And I took this one because you gain the success, right? And you lose that meaning of why you did it. You lose the meaning behind the art and all of that shit, right? And just like he said, most people that are in my position will get complacent. They'll get complacent with the success. They'll get complacent with everything that they've achieved, and they'll forget about why they're doing it. They'll forget, what was so fun about it. You do it until it's too late. So for you, in what situation has this happened to you?
What do you mean?
Has there ever been a situation for you where you just kind of, you work hard and you let that success get to you a little bit?
When I was in school, I had to build a resume, and it was for the design program at UIC, and I had to build a resume out, and I put everything that I did already while I was in school, and the lady's reviewing my resume as she's reviewing everybody else's, and she came to mine, and she goes, "What is all this?" And I was like, "These are things that I've done." She's like, "You did what?" And I was like, "I designed that, I branded that, I worked with this brand, I did this and this." And, I felt myself. I was like, I achieved all this. And she was like, "You didn't do this shit." And I was like, well, she didn't say shit, but she was like, "You didn't do this." And I was like, "I did do this. Like, this is what I did." Like, and I remember kids, like, sitting around, like, these college students, they're, like, looking at me, and I'm like, is no one gonna say that I did this? Like, we all know that I did this, and everybody's like looking around. I'm like, no, I did this. And I think at that moment I was like, no, I did this. Like, this is my work. Like, I did this. And she had ended it on like, "You're gonna edit your resume and turn in a new one." And I was like, "No, I won't." And I folded that piece of paper, put it in an envelope, put my name on it. "That's what you were supposed to do." And then at the end of class, I put it there, and I left class. And that was the last I ever heard of it. I was like, I'm not going to edit something that I know that is what I did. You know what I mean? Like, that was my work. Yeah. I put in those hours, and I put in that time. And I think at that moment I was like, I deserve my credit. I deserve this, I deserve that, I think I feel like I should have gotten more credit while I was in school from the teachers. You know what I mean? Like, I was, like, hustling all the time. I think I hustled every kid that was in my class, I don't think, I know. And I feel like I should have been, like, spotlighted, like, like, now to the point where I'm calling UIC and I ask for interns to come and work at Published, like. And the teachers are like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you're still in design." I'm like,
hey, have you heard from that teacher that did that shit to you?
No, I'm never going to talk to that lady.
That's fucked up.
That lady doesn't deserve my time.
So talk about Published real quick, man. Before we hop too deep into this personal shit, right? Talk about Published. It's obviously your company.
So Published is a design boutique and a print house. So we do it's a boutique specifically that works with artists and small businesses in multiple facets. Right now we work heavily in the cannabis industry, in the legal cannabis industry. And then as far as artists, we have G Herbo under the umbrella. We have Chance the Rapper under the umbrella. We have Vic Mensa under it. And then we have 93 BOYZ, Nobody's Home, Viola. What else do I have? I got Adidas under it.
And what do you do exactly for them?
So right now, creative directing, branding, strategy, consulting.
Have you directed a video?
No, I haven't directed. Have I directed a video? No, I haven't directed a video. No. No, I haven't directed a video. But I can't see. I won't say I won't. You know what I mean? But no, I haven't gotten into. I feel like I've pondered it, but I haven't gotten the opportunity to really like seize that yet.
Who's the one artist you would want to come to you and be like, "Hey, yo, direct this video for me?
Well, that's a hard question. I didn't think that was gonna be so hard.
Damn, yeah, I thought that was a basic
Yeah,
question,
that-
low
that-
key. I felt a little too basic asking that.
You know, it's hard when you're already working with the people you want to work with. Shit, it would be crazy to do like Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And I think more so to like learn from it. You know what I mean? Not to like do it and be like, no, let's get this perspective. I think to like learn from him, to understand his point of view. You know what I mean? I think the point of view that they're getting across, like recently and have been doing in the videos in the past, like I want to be in that mind state. You know what I mean? Like I really want to like learn from it. Like I don't need the directing position. I would be like down to like just be part of that production, you know, to like, oh, that's how they got there, you know, so that I could take that and then use it for somebody else. I would love that opportunity.
His mind is fucking crazy. Like immediately I think of the Humble video, right? And how they did that, or his performance at the Super Bowl.
Right.
You know for sure he put that together just based on his messages that he's always trying to get across, right? And people are always fucking concepting on, man, this is what Kendrick means. This is what Kendrick means, and he never truly reveals what he means.
Yeah, you never really know what direction he's going. You know what I mean? And I love that. And I think too, like with that Humble video, that it's like that video, that concept of like the heads, right? That got carried on to so many other videos. Like it transpired into like we saw it everywhere else, you know? And so many people got influenced by that video alone, that I want to be in that circle. You know, I want to know how like what their mood board looks like. Like that interests me more than like I'm gonna direct for him. Like I want to be like, let's create that concept. You know what I mean? Like you know, what book did that come from? What video did that come from? Like, or did it not? Was it just like pure thought?
You want to be in the room to know
Yeah.
what's all happening.
Yeah, like I'm more interested in that.
The way your mind works, right? It's so different from how everybody else's mind works, because you're thinking, okay, what's the next strategy? The creativity process, just like you said, it wouldn't be for the directing position. It'd be so I can pick their brain and learn from them. Yeah, most people wouldn't say that.
No, they wouldn't.
You mentioned wanting to be confident and secure in, you know, yourself, your relationships, and just having that, right? You mentioned confidence a lot when we first talked. Who is it you want to be?
If I could put everybody that I love, that I inspire to be, in a pot and melt it, I want to be that person. You know what I mean? Like when I work with anybody who becomes my mentor, I try to take all the goods from them and all the bads from them, and toss the bads and add the goods to myself, right? So that I can add that into the like my next day, you know, like the next day I wake up, so I can like be that person. I want to be the best version of myself. And when I say that, I think we wake up every day and we know what we have to do mentally and physically and spiritually, right? Like we know when we wake up, we're like, damn, I should be at the gym, or I should do this, and I got to eat, and I got to do this. And I think life then starts happening and time starts ticking, and then you're like, I couldn't get to the gym, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. But like that person, I want to be that person that wakes up and is like, I'm gonna do this, and achieves and checks all those things in that day. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm still working on that. Like I didn't get to go to the gym today because the day was kind of like I still had to move around, run errands, do this and that, and like. But I woke up thinking that I wanted to go. I woke up not thinking that I want to go, but I woke up thinking that I needed to go. You know what I mean? So I want to be the person that checks all those things off in like the things that I have to do in my life.
Let's take it back real quick to you take all those things from people and you add it to yourself, right? We're going to touch more on that. Yeah. But first this. What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned from somebody, and how have you added it to yourself?
The biggest thing I think I've learned, and I'll say this, I've said this earlier about like being on time all the time. I think I learned that from my grandpa, and that was like a huge lesson, and it's got me probably mostly every opportunity I've ever gotten in my life because of that notion. My grandpa instilled in me that to always be on time. and to be on time is to be late. So I always show up 30 or an hour before anything that whoever I'm supposed to meet. And that goes not only into meetings but into like the work, right? So I don't turn things in late. I turn things on, like, you need this today, I'm gonna do it today. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's how I get so many. That's how I get my business, because that's why people say go to the mirror, you know. And I've heard it so many times from so many people. Like, I'm like, why'd you hit me up? They're like, because everybody's saying your name, you know. And like you know, and those values are important to people, you know. And I find that to be important values into people too. So like interns and all that, I need them to be on time.
Damn, I was late today. My bad.
It's all good.
Nah,
It's all good.
I get you.
But this is your show, so I can't be mad at you about that. But like, if you want my time, then I'm gonna feel a type of way.
That's actually one of the biggest lessons my cousin taught me. Is like, whenever somebody and on a smaller scale, right? He used to be a hiring manager, and he said that if this person did not show up at least 5 minutes early, I would interview them, but they weren't getting the job. I already knew immediately. So ever since then, I'm like, damn, I guess I gotta be early. But especially when it comes to that, right? You have a bunch of artists depending on your work getting out on time. I know the struggle because I gotta make my own fucking posters, my own shit, right? And when it's not prepared on time, it's like, fuck, it's stressful. So for you to be able to get all of that material to the artists even earlier than they expected, that's what fucking matters. And obviously it's working out for you, right? So let's move back forward, right? You said that you're working on being a better version of yourself every single day. In what ways right now can you grow personally to achieve that?
The last 2 weeks I've been waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's a new habit. And only trying to stay in bed for like another 30. I got a cute little puppy, so it's a little hard sometimes to, like, you know, once you get up, it starts barking and shit. So I try to seize those 30 minutes to really cuddle with the little fucker. But outside of that, like waking up early, opening the blinds so I can see the sunrise. I think those are like important things, and that was a huge step. That takes, like, trust me, I've been trying to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning for the last, like, 2 months.
Damn.
Hard. It is hard. It is a difficult thing, because not only do you have to go to bed a little bit early, right? Like, it's, like, maintaining, like, the night before, right? Like, you can't go to bed at 2 o'clock and then try to wake up at 6. Like,
you're fucked then.
You're fucked. That mental clock has to be on point. And then, like, physically, like, I have to make sure that I ate a couple times in the day, that I got enough, like, nutrition in me and all that stuff. So it took a little bit, you know, probably longer than most other people, you know, 2 months. Oh my God, that's so much. I could do that tomorrow. But it's like, nah, it took some time. So the waking up is like a huge thing that I'm trying to continue to do. 'Cause, you know, I read, you know, newspapers all the time and articles about, like, you know, the 6-hour sleep, and then, like, beginning to have that drive in the morning. And then because I feel like, you know, since I've been doing it, I've definitely been more, you know, aware and also more on point in the morning. Like, by 8 o'clock in the morning, I have no emails. I've already gotten all my emails out, where, like, at 8 o'clock, I'm like, oh, wow, I'm chilling for a second. And then I can, like, go and walk the dog. I can go and make myself some breakfast. I was like, damn, it's only, and then you get to, like, 11. I'm like, it's only 11? I'm like, what the fuck? It's only 11 in this bitch? And that's, like, shocking. You know what I mean? You wake up at 8. 11 is, like, a couple hours away. You know what I mean? Because by the time you get out, shower, all the shit, it's like 10. And it's like, then 11 is like, so I think waking up at 6 has, like, I'm like, damn, I get more out of my day right now. And I am getting a lot more out of my day. Like, I'm still, like, I have more energy, and where I can, like, you know, I think it's been great. That's honestly the biggest thing in my life right now.
You don't crash midway through, like, around 3-4 o'clock?
I did used to crash But I think adding in like stretching into my routine and adding a little bit of workout into my routine, but also like I think the biggest thing that I've also been going on, and like what I was talking to my homie the other day when we had lunch, I was like, he's like, I'm still hungry. And I was like, you know what? I'm at like 80% full, and that's where I like to be, you know? Because like once you get to that 100% full, that's when you start crashing, right? Or like the midday coffee, and then you get the crash after that. I don't drink coffee.
My boy's healthy. The shit flies by.
Yeah, it's like my therapist. Dead ass. I be having 1 hour sessions with him. He's like, yeah, so we're going to have to cut off. I'm like, all right.
Oh, that's a real thing where they hit you with your time's up.
No, 100% it's a real thing. He's like, yeah, so we're done here. And I'm like, we are, aren't we?
Have you ever just scheduled more time?
Yeah, I actually invited him to my studio, and I got like 3 hours with him. It was amazing. I was like, he was like, wow, that went pretty quick. I was like, it did. Dude, 3 hours to like put everything out is like, you feel so good after that.
I'm glad you're self-aware, bro. Most people aren't.
Well, the pandemic did that.
The pandemic fucked you up?
No, it didn't fuck me up, but I was like, I don't want to be fucked up. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm not going to go down that route. Like, I was like, and all my homies, we all have the same therapist. It's probably not good, right, to say that, but no, it's decent. We don't like, I'm not like talking about my homies and shit. I'm talking about my life. But yeah, we all have the same therapist. He's like a therapist, and probably if you all want one, I'll hook it up. But yeah, he fucks with our group like heavily. He like fucks with who we are, and we're a really close-knit group, and some have been seeing him for 5 years. I've been seeing him for a year and a half now, you know, some 7. But he's like, he has a business. He's an entrepreneur as well, so he has like, he can talk to us in that world, and then he also is a therapist in the sense of like, you know, relationships and family and all that stuff, and integral of process of growing up, and it's, you know, it's been great.
Sounds like you got a cool-ass therapist.
He's an amazing therapist.
What's one of the biggest lessons you took away from therapy so far?
I would say, like, immediately, like, working on, like, my past. Working on, like, you know, boundaries is a huge thing, you know? Like, I keep saying boundaries, but boundaries has been a huge thing not only with, like, work, but with family, you know? Like, you know, I think we all grow up in certain situations that, like, you know, our family has like classic styles of living, right? Especially my parents who are from Bosnia, like, you know, my mom has this thing, and, you know, my mom has this thing where it's like, she grew up where she had needed to be, if you weren't home on time, then you were in trouble, you know? And that was kind of ingrained in my upbringing as well. Like, no, you have to be home at this time, but like you with your homies, you're like, I want to stay out a little bit more. You know, like, those are things that I was like, I didn't really understand. And like, even to this day, like, sometimes my mom is like, still like, are you home yet? And I'm like, Mom, come on, like, we not there anymore. Like, you know, like, we gotta chill out a little bit. Like, you know, if I go out the country, it's like, did you do this? Did you do this? And it's like, just relax. Everything is good. I'll call you. I'll make sure everything is okay. So it's like really like walking other people through that process and being able to like just talk it through. Like, hey, you know, because like when I was a little kid, I'd be like, oh, yep, okay, you know what I mean? And it's like you get sweaty and like you don't know how to like answer and shit. Now it's like, no, like have like the best relationship with my parents, with my family, like everybody, because like I know how to like communicate. Like, hey, everything's good. Don't worry about that. That's not something that you need to be worrying about. Let me worry about that. You worry about this. Worry about what you're doing, not what I'm doing.
And with that experience, it really does, it takes a toll on you in the way that you view authority figures. Just like you said, boundaries, right? I had a conversation with my mom about that where we were talking, and I'm like, you know, the way that you guys kind of were with me, like, oh, just like you said, be home on time, do this, do that, don't talk back to your elders, stuff like that, right? Now my mom's like, oh, well, you know, if your aunt or uncle's wrong, you know, you could tell them, but in a respectful way. Back in the day, it wasn't, don't tell them shit, don't talk back to them at all, just say okay and keep it moving. And I told her, I'm like, you know, that's probably why I have an issue when it comes to, you know, having, I would say, kind of conflict with somebody that's in a higher position than me, because say I get called into somebody's office, immediately I start being fucking anxious. I get, just like you said, sweaty, all that type of shit. When it comes to like talking to my homies, I'm gonna be cool, right? But when it comes to somebody that's in a position where I could actually get in fucking trouble, I'm just like, it's all downhill. It's a rabbit hole for the day.
What helps with the therapist is that I get to go through this like, oh, well, he'll ask you, like, he'll propose questions like, what are you gonna say then?
Mm-hmm.
What are you gonna talk about? And then I'm like, what am I gonna talk about? And he's like, yeah, like, tell me like how you're gonna go like and fix this problem. You know what I mean? And then like he walks you through like those things that you're gonna say. So like communication is like obviously something that I have a little bit of an issue with, just because of my, being an immigrant, right? So I'm like, I feel like I'm still formulating certain words or certain feelings. Like I'm still trying to like understand those things. And like with the therapist, it allows me to like, just like, oh, I can say it like this, or I can go about it in this route.
And the social norms are just different between obviously like the different countries and the cultures, just stuff like that. You touched a great point though with the boundaries, right? Immediately what came to mind was the song Still Yours by Big Sean. And he says that feel so out of character to play your role. Sometimes you gotta break your heart to save your soul. And sometimes you find yourself in a place where you have to separate yourself from people, whether that's in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even just like we were talking about our parents, right? You got to separate yourself from those relationships in a small sense or in a big sense. And it can be drastic to the way you're living your life and the way that the way that you're feeling every day. Recently, I really been dealing with that where I'm like, fuck, I'm kind of losing touch with everything that I built and losing touch with the person that I want to be because I'm working so hard to save relationships, or I'm working so hard to maintain relationships that could really take a back seat if I needed it to. I just realized that like if you ever have to question yourself, you have to question your position with people, right? Just like you said, back to that confidence thing. You're questioning that position that you have within somebody's life and questioning your worth. It's kind of like, what the fuck, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's kind of how I've been recently. For you, how have your relationships impacted your growth?
So when I was like a kid, I wouldn't say I was in the wrong crowd, but I was in with a crowd that I knew that I was going to be able to like grow old with. Mm-hmm. And that affected me a lot because I knew that like, I was like, damn, I'm going to have to, like, I'm not going to have those, like, that, like, Disney story where it's, like, I grew up with the friends and I'm going to have the same friends when I'm, like, 40, 50 years old. You feel me? I grew up in a situation, I had friends that dealt with, like, drug addiction a lot and depression. And I lost a lot of homies because of the heroin pandemic. Yeah. More than I can count, to be honest. And like several months ago, like 6 months ago, I lost like the one, like my best friend that I was like, damn, that one fucked me up. And when I was like 18, and like I was, chilling with everybody, I knew I was like, yeah, this isn't the route for me, and I was like, I need to look at some other, like, I need to figure out an out, and that was, for me, like, that's when I started, like, really, like, beginning to design. Like, I was like, oh, shit, I'm gonna learn this program, and I'm gonna, like, take this, and I would stay after school instead of going to chill with, like, homies and smoke weed and shit. I would stay after school and try to learn how to, like, use the Illustrator program at school, like, in the library. Or like during lunch, everybody would go and sneak out and go smoke weed. I would stay at lunch and go and, try to learn how to design and just try to get better at this craft because I started understanding that wasn't the route that I wanted to go down, I had teachers like questioning me. I had like police officers bringing me into like into the dean's office and being like, you're high. And I was like, I'm not high. Did I smoke? Yes, but I wasn't smoking smoking in the middle of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm not high. And they would like try to do all these tests. And I started understanding. I was like, yeah, this isn't like what I don't want to be under this pressure. You know, it makes you feel like you walk in, and you're like, your heart's bursting and shit. I'm like, I didn't even do anything. And I'm fucking like what you were saying earlier. It's like this, like, these like leadership is kind of like looking at you. You're like, the fuck am I supposed to do right now? So I started understanding that. And I started like really like knowing that like I had to leave the situation, and that situation was moving to Chicago, and like just moving to Chicago and like figuring it out. And so when I like made that move, that was probably the best situation in my life to like not only like boundary setting, but also like getting myself out of a situation that I knew that I shouldn't be in anymore. And my homies that remained there, you know, they knew it was like we were like, it was like the beginning of the end kind of situation. Cause like I remember even like my homie that did pass, he was like, you know, once you move out there, and I'll never forget it, but he's like, once you move out there, we won't be as close of friends anymore. And I was like, that fucked me up. I was like, what the fuck? But it was so true. In every possible way. And even his parents, they're like, don't come back. And I didn't.
Man, so to close out, you know, for you, what did that do to you? You know, having that conversation and knowing that, you know, once I leave, I'm creating this boundary and I'm gonna be me.
I think it made me the person I am today. 100%. I knew that I almost like reconfigured my situation. Like I went from being like the youngest kid in that group to being like this is where I have to change the like course of my life for like the betterment of myself, you know, like not, you know, because once you like understand that it's like this isn't gonna go anywhere, I understood that like I had to do the shit by myself, you know. And like I had a small clothing company when I was in like high school that I was like selling t-shirts and shit, just being a hustler. And and like I always wanted my homies to like what you guys are doing right now. Like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, having homies in a room and, like, you all got the same mission, like, that's amazing. That's a dream, you know? And I didn't have that. I didn't have homies that were like, oh, we're going to help you and I'm going to do this for you and we're going to do this, right? Like, I was like, damn, I got to do this shit all by myself. And so, knowing that, I was like, I have to, like, turn the page and I'm going to do this shit. Like, I was like, I'm going to do this shit. And I got into, like, UIC. I landed an internship, my first, as a freshman at UIC. I landed an internship at a digital marketing company. I started thinking a little bit more clear. I got my own apartment. I was paying for school. I was paying for my apartment. I was paying, like, I was like, I'm doing this shit. And at that level, I leveled up. I was like, I'm leveling up. And I had started exceeding, like, the people that I was growing up with, you know, not in a flashy way, but I started, like, noticing. I was like, oh, we're different people. And it worked out how it worked out, you know? And there's no bad love on anybody. It's just, like, I had to do what I had to do for the betterment of myself and my family.
Just like the lyric says, sometimes you gotta break your heart to save your soul, save yourself, and leave behind the people that don't serve you no more.
Yeah.
But man, thank you. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and you just dropping knowledge on us, bro. I feel like you got so much more to, you know, drop on us, and hopefully we can continue this working relationship, bro.
For sure. I appreciate you.
That's going to be all today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you check out Publish Studios, right?
Yeah.
Publish Studios. And, man, keep an eye out for his work. G Herbo, Chance the Rapper, Vic Mensa, and the 93 BOYZ.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.